don't need bigger knife. Yeah.
Welcome back once again, because we are here to entertain you on this Sunday evening, as per usual. I was out in the field yesterday helping a buddy harvest an antelope tag. He had one to fill and was there to help with the processing and spotting and whatnot. And the Bark River Little Rascal 2 was very efficient and came in
You
quite
remember
handy.
the name on take two?
I didn't. See, Nigel, I make you work.
Scalpel.
I only make Nigel work twice as hard when he's tired because I care for him.
On that note, Joe.
On that note, carrying a very strange knife, the gear-operated, Mantis-produced, G&G Hawk designed gearhead. It's this little lever action here that allows the blade to open, and it's just a liner lock. It's a chonky knife. It's a heavy knife. It's not something I'm going to be carrying for like an EDC often. But
show off half deploying it again there.
Yeah. Do like a partial deploy. It's difficult because the detent is actually pretty good on this thing. Here, I'll try and do it from this side. Yeah.
Okay.
Without
Yeah,
me.
but
Yeah. Without me slicing my
yeah,
keyboard
it
open.
is actually a manual. It's not automatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a pretty quick opener once you get used to it, though.
It's a neat design, man. The way that lever moves when you move the blade around is pretty awesome.
It makes
Yeah,
me
you'll
look-
have to make sure to bring it in on Tuesday because I haven't seen it yet. So
Yeah. It's pretty fun.
Mhm.
Anyhow,
what's the steel on it?
440C?
We are being asked to mute the stream by both Justin and Darren because they're
Hey Joe, can you block those guys?
Yeah. Sorry, we got to get rid of a couple trolls here. Just hang on a second. Yeah.
Maybe it was better without sound. That's fucking hilarious.
I was going to ask them what they're carrying today, but we don't care now.
Oh.
On that note, shall I go next?
You should.
Sure.
New in my pocket, the QSP Penguin D2, denim micarta, a sweet little Warncliffey slicey like box cutter. This thing's awesome.
Indeed,
You can
indeed it
mute
is.
me at any time.
It's also ambidextrous, which is one of the big reasons that I also own a QSP Penguin with denim micarta with the clip on the right side. You know,
Dennis, it's
So-
on the left side, you fool.
it is, and I will darken the hell out of this micarta. I have only begun to fight, so
Only begun to fight. It's kind of neat the way that the screws attach for the pocket clip. Like the fact that it slides in between the micarta and the liner is pretty neat.
yeah, it's pretty
Nicely
cool.
nested.
And I was telling you that like it is, you do need 2 screwdrivers for the barrel spacers. But what I actually did was I took the one side that the pivot screw wasn't on and I cinched it down really tight. And then it was almost like it was over tightened. And then I spin out the other side and I just took the one slab off where the pivot screw basically came. And I pulled the pivot screw and then those 2 screws and took that side off and disassembled it from there, right?
These two and this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So on the opposite end of where your clip is, on the opposite side, over tighten those so they stay in place. And then you do really only need one screwdriver to be able to spin those ones out. And that's what I ended up doing because they were fumbly. So
I have to address Darren's comment. He is carrying the burden of being awesome. Fuck it out.
So Joe,
wait, I'm going to bring up
how's that
Darren's
muting
score
then
here.
going?
No, we can resubscribe to Darren now. He's back.
Excellent.
And apparently Justin has an opinion about pink Starburst tasting like cream soda. There's no vanilla in
Yeah.
pink starburst though. So you're on the glue.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have that cream to it.
Yeah.
There's no cream in that pink, man.
I was hoping you weren't gonna fucking say it, but then you went.
Yeah. And the words came out of his face. That's it, everybody. Have a great night.
I need to have one of those "that's all, folks" things just popping up right here.
How many weeks ago was it that we got flagged?
And that was just for using clips. That wasn't for our content.
I see.
I wasn't going to go into specifics. I was just saying. It's
No, given we are not PG.
No, definitely not for kids content.
And I was just looking up Darren's score for this week to see how awesome he actually was. Meh, we'll get into that later.
So Dennis may have some shade to throw.
I'm biased. I'm biased as fuck tonight. But
So
anyway,
speaking of scores, and as you can see on the screen there, we are checking out the Viper Berus knives, both the Warncliffe and the drop point versions. Is kind of what we were looking at in scoring.
So the reason why we got these to play with is because somebody's a little biased and maybe decided that, hey, one wasn't enough.
Sight unseen.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing here is that as soon as I saw these knives at SHOT Show, and you can all attest to my first SHOT Show pick because all y'all actually own one and I still don't. But my other SHOT Show pick was very much the Viper Knives Berus. And they did make a Berus 2 with the sheep's foot. So, sight unseen, I dropped way too much money to put both of these bad boys into my collection, for sure.
And I will freely admit to all of the concerns that I had were squashed.
Yeah.
For the most part.
But we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah.
We will.
Yep.
We will.
And
Right
seeing
now.
how Dennis is seeing how Dennis is the most biased one, you may as well jump in first for your scores there, I guess.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm just going to bring it up because I've got it handy right in front of me now. So
Yeah.
I tried to not be overly biased on the objective side of things because I realized the big outstanding thing that everyone, including the guys in our comments from the SHOT Show video, questioned was this second little notch here and how it was going to play out, especially because there was this first notch. I don't know if we can get a closer view of, you've got them up on the screen. Everyone sees what we're talking about. Anyway. I gave them solid 8s across the board. I think the ergonomic execution is something that's going to stand out in this conversation. And I did give it an 8 because from all three of you that you were all willing to admit that you're like, whoa, yeah, it doesn't even come into play. For the most part, it's actually still really comfortable type of thing, right? So lock up and actuation, because it's a fixed blade, it's retention in the sheath, it's on your hip. That's kind of what I got that to believe is in and out of the sheath, and how it rides is kind of how I put that in my mind for
ease of retention and stuff like that.
And I gave it a 7 because the sheath itself does have this ambidextrous thing going on. And again, Joe's got a picture, so I won't even bother bringing it up. But where sheath foot and drop point both fit in the same sheath. And it works, yes. But it could be nicer as far as the rattle factor. So personally, you can see I'm very biased. Like I threw up 10s like candy on my first side of things. Material choice, like M390 aesthetics, love the look of it. That's why it was a SHOT Show pick. Enthusiasm, I'm as happy as I was. Sight unseen for 2 knives that I shouldn't have spent as much money as I did on, type of thing, right? So yeah, pocket ergo is again on the hip, how it rides, that type of thing. The Utility-Clip takes a while to get used to. I don't think I'm using it right, but I like the way that I am using it. So I might get a shot for Nigel to splice in on Tuesday by that thing, because I know I didn't send one to Joe on that.
How are you utilizing the Ulti-Clip?
I'll shoot up a picture and I'll talk to you on Tuesday about it as well, and it might clarify it a little bit. But basically, I'm clipping it on my belt, on the inside of my belt. and before I put my belt on, so I can still use that spring tab on the inside of my hip rather than on the outside like it's probably intended to wear.
I see. So the clip, the lever for the clip is facing outside your belt?
No.
The
Facing
other way,
in,
facing
towards
inside.
his hip.
Okay, yeah.
Against kind of like my hip and or belly, depending on where I'm riding it, or just behind my hip, as me and Nigel kind of talked about.
I don't have it. I don't have it handy,
easy way
but
to
the
describe it might be it's set up to carry right hand with the sheath on the inside of your belt, and Dennis didn't change that clip around. He just put it on the left side, so now it's on the outside of his belt.
I played around with it the way it should be sat, like you guys would have it carried, and didn't enjoy it at all. So, and I guess I didn't mention, overall it was an 86 with an A-, but you've probably seen that from my overall scores anyway. So, I'm a dick for not saying it, but
it's all good. It's right.
I'm pretty biased on this one. She didn't hit the 90 marker, but I had to be objective, and I tried to be objective in this one. So, someone else go.
All right. The next person up in the line of us on camera is me, so I'll go next, I guess.
And comments if we're missing out on anything. So
nothing's come up recently. I gave it an overall score of 80, which is a B. The things that kind of stand out was the cutting ability, specifically the sheepfoot. That blade cuts really nice. It's got a really nice gradual taper down to the edge. So I gave that a 9. Cost versus fit and finish and ergonomic execution, I both gave 7s because I feel like there is going to still be people out there that second finger choil doesn't quite catch. Even though I gave it an 8 for ergonomic preference on my end because I do like the way it feels in my hand. On the personal side of things, I gave it 8s across the board except for material choice. Again, that marbled carbon fiber was absolutely gorgeous, and you cannot go wrong ever with micarta. So as those two options plus M390, it's a no-brainer.
It's a like even just looking at the spec sheet, it's a good list of materials.
Yeah. Indeed. And it's Italian made, so you've got the rounded spine and all of those nice things. I did say cost versus fit and finish was a 7. There was small things, and maybe 7 was a little bit low. I was thinking about changing it this morning, but I'd already sent the email to Joe, and I was like, no, it's sent. I can't use it now.
So, Paul, I just brought up your score sheet as you're talking, and I'm following along. And the thing that I have to comment on is the cost versus fit and finish being a 7. The reason I have to comment on that is because your cost versus fit and finish on a mini Super Freak, you gave it 8.
Yeah.
And I've seen uneven grinds and I've seen uneven blades. So you're telling me those things, no, I'm just saying those things still warrant an 8 where whatever.
But the one that I looked at was in pretty good shape.
What's that?
So I can only grade the one that's in front of me, right?
Okay, but I mean, I've seen several of them and sold several to customers and whatever, and I've seen off-centered and I've seen
right-centered grinds. The issue that Paul had is an issue that I had, and I think we actually gave it the same score in that category. Just a little sneak peek for you there, for a really particular issue, and I'll let Paul explain that a little bit further, but.
I don't remember the issue.
Was it the void in the carbon fiber?
The voids in the carbon fiber, and I'll get into my secondary reason for that, but that was a major concern.
Because yes, there was some on there. And then
keep in mind,
I don't know if Nigel's got it, but without spoiling scores. Anyway, let's spout on, and then we can get our opinions later on.
Yeah. Let's let Paul continue.
To be fair to the Berus, actually, now that Joe reminded me. The voids in the carbon fiber, the only other knife that I had on hand to compare it to was a gold class Crooked River with marbled carbon fiber, which is not in the same ballpark price range wise, but had absolutely no voids at all in the carbon fiber.
Yeah. For 5 times the price.
Yes, 100%. And I freely admit to that. So that might be probably where that
Yeah. Well, we'll continue
Yeah.
on because I think there's some other discrepancies. I haven't looked at the other people's scores, so we're going to have some fun tonight as I'm bringing everyone's up. But that might be a consistent argument I may or may not have.
And Darren, I'm not getting fired for that B. Just wait until we get to Nigel's score.
Well, before we get, are you done, Paul? Or
Yeah, I'm all done there.
Okay.
I was going to say, if you want to take it over there, Joe.
yeah.
Well, personal, you had a bunch of 8s. I think.
Oh,
you
right,
pretty
yeah,
much
you didn't-
summed that up
Oh,
there,
yeah.
right?
Did you do all your personal?
I didn't do all of them, but the aesthetic, again, marbled carbon fiber, micarta, rounded spines, things like that are what tickle my fancy. The meat crafter coming out from Benchmade opened my eyes to the options when it comes to a larger lanyard hole. So what looked odd to me at first makes a lot more sense now.
Grew a little bit
as an option.
on you. Yeah.
He has
Open my
seen the
eyes.
ways of the larger hole.
Well, it's a larger hole, so
Thanks.
it's easier to see through. You see, so
Mr. Fisk just popped into chat to say hello before he heads to bed.
Fair enough.
Have a good one. Piss soda. Hey, good night, dude.
That's enough of that.
Yep. I will say though, my enthusiasm also an 8. My enthusiasm was middling at best at first. Yeah, that's a sentence.
Have you ever had a dream that you
Because of the fact that I wasn't sure how that second finger trail was going to fit, and everything kind of hinged off of that.
Right.
And,
Kind of dependent on how it felt in hand.
yeah, and it felt real damn good. And
like I said in my comment, you weren't wrong. Like even the comments on our SHOT Show video, there was many comments on the Berus, and even the audience that watched those videos were making comments about it just being like, normally they can knock it out of the park, and it looks like this one was a miss and things like that, right? Like it's So
that's it. Joe, can you throw up a picture of the Berus for Francis? He just joined chat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Roger,
I'll
brother.
put up the picture of the one on top of the other.
And so the drop point is the Berus. I don't know. Yeah, they do call it a Berus 1, and the sheep's foot is the Berus 2, right?
Somehow that actually makes sense.
And 4 handle variations. I guess we didn't get into that either, but
No, there's black G10 and standard carbon fiber as well,
no, it's black micarta, and green micarta. Yeah,
Yep.
and then
And-
standard carbon fiber.
and marbled carbon fiber.
Yeah, so there's 5. That's
What?
pretty cool.
No,
Am I
there's
missing something?
there's
There's
no
no G10.
Yeah, but still,
No
black
G10.
micarta, regular micarta. No, you're fair.
Yay,
There's no
Paul can
G10.
count.
There's no G10.
You witnessed it here live, everybody. Paul learned to count.
To 4.
At least.
No, I mean,
Five's still questionable.
I was gonna say, let's give Paul credit where credit's due. He at least knows of 5. He'll work his way up to it.
He's familiar of 10 because he does a score sheet every week.
Well,
Yeah, but I don't count it. It's just there. I just pick a number and hope that I'm right.
Oh god, let's not
like
think.
Mr. Fisk with his finger on the vote button.
Yep.
Francis is saying that it looks cool. It's the first time he's heard of it, to be honest. Yeah, and that's kind of been the whole consensus, is that it kind of got overshadowed or kind of looked beyond because of its kind of odd shapes, which probably a mistake.
There was a lot of things that for 2020 that were definitely more on the radar than this little knife.
Yeah.
Like if you think about everything that came out during the SHOT Show,
Like this little knife.
well, yeah, for sure. I think we're all in agreement, but everything else, even like the crazy Gerbers and the artisan cutleries, whether it was the Laconicos or whatever, the funky lock,
Yeah,
that they seem to be having success and are now like bringing out with like Civivi models even, type of thing.
or not CGRB, right?
CJRB, sorry, yeah, my bad.
was gonna say a Civivi with that lock. That'd be interesting, but yeah.
Anyway,
All right. So I was only very slightly more hatery than Paul, but not really for reasons I'll talk about in a moment.
Gave
I
it
haven't
an
heard
80.
I
I
haven't
gave
used
it an 80. How is that hatery?
hatery in a long time. Thanks for bringing that back, Joe. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Overall, I gave it a 79, a B. I was a little bit more harsh in the objective category, but I was a little more favorable by only 1 point than Paul in the objective, in the personal. And I will say that this is a knife that I will probably own at some point. So for me, the high points on the objective were the 3/8 I gave it were cost materials, cutting ability, and ergonomic execution. That thing in hand is surprisingly comfortable. And like Dennis was saying, that middling finger choil was definitely a point of contention, at least for the three of us. Dennis knew he would like it, but for the three of us, it was a little like, that's strange. Not sure how that's going to feel, because there's not really anything to compare it to that we've played with. The low score, though, cost, fit, and finish, I gave it a 7. And for 7, for me, that's still acceptable. I'm not really all that upset about the flaws that are there. But there definitely were... There were a couple things. Some of the grind towards the tip were a little bit strange. But for me, the big thing was lockup and actuation. I don't know if it's just Dennis's model, and I don't know if it's necessarily fixable because it is a Kydex sheath. You potentially could heat mold it a little bit better, but there's some significant rattling with the drop point variant. And that one, for lockup and actuation, I actually gave it a 6. It's still acceptable, but there's a clear flaw that's going to annoy a lot of people. That rattling, it would bother me a lot were I to buy a knife and have it rattle that much. But on the other hand, the sheep's foot, or Warncliffe, whatever, that variant, the Berus 2, that one didn't have any rattle in either sheath. So I have to wonder if that's consistent across the models.
Okay, and the other thing, and I think I talked to you guys about it, but the audience, I didn't, is that I actually did switch the sheets, because the drop point one that I got actually was even worse in the sheath that it had. It was like really bad. And the sheep's foot one was almost like actually too tight, tugging on it a little bit. So I actually swapped them around, and that actually improved both when I did it. So that does tell me that there's a big variance in sheath like quality for sure.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I'm now remembering that's why I kept it as a 7, was because you did switch them and it was better, but it was still pretty bad. As far
but
as
the sheep's foot is rock solid, and I think me and Paul dabbled on the geometry of like the way that the spine works on the sheep's foot rather than the spine working on the drop point one, because there is like more distal taper. Let's see if I can get a background here without cutting myself.
You didn't send me a picture of the spines.
Right
No,
there
I didn't.
with your scar.
But actually, this is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see how much thicker, and this one does taper, the drop pointy one.
You definitely sandwich between the Kydex a little bit more on the sheep's foot.
I think it's just more to grab up top type of thing, and that's why it doesn't have a rattle to it, whereas the other one does taper more and leaves more at the bottom to be able to shift around, because it's, I think it's just an inherent cool Scarborough.
No, Darren in chat. They're getting into science again instead of using feelings. Also, a lot of comments about the marbled carbon fiber and just how pretty it is.
Oh, dear Lord.
In my opinion, if you're gonna buy one, that's the variant to get.
That's
the variant that
actually the exact one that Dennis has with the sheep's foot. That's the one. If I'm going to order a new one, or one for myself, that's it. That's the model. Like,
okay, so here's the thing here, Joe. Well, okay, we'll get into it later. Nigel still needs to get his score, but
yeah,
we might have a proposition for you here.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I will just end it on a high note. My personal scores were all 8s and 9s. Material choice, you can't do much better than that for me. And ergonomic preference was also a 9. That thing is so stupid comfortable in hand. For a small fixed blade, I the Azula 2 was the next best thing that Dennis also owns. It's like, shit, I love that knife. That's got to be something small that I add to my collection at some point. But and I was looking for my or a knife like this, the Rook Hornet, this sort of basic single finger choil. But that Berus is like way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought like maybe it'll be acceptable. No, this thing actually feels great in hand. Yeah, it's a weird looking knife though, so I can only bear to give it an 8 for aesthetics. It's definitely strange. Yeah, my enthusiasm, I honestly could have put it in 9, I think. But in terms of like my enthusiasm and recommending it to other people, it's just weird enough that there's some slight hesitation in saying that, yeah, you definitely need to get one. You definitely should own one. You got to feel it in hand first. I agree with Paul on that. Yeah.
My slight argument for that is everyone felt it in hand and everyone agreed with like, holy cow, this is a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, we definitely speak for the 7.8 billion people on the planet that it'll fit everybody.
Well, of course we do.
I'm only throwing out that number because me and Joe looked it up today. We were curious about something. And we might get into that later.
We shouldn't.
We shouldn't, but I might. Depends on how many more beers I have.
He's got to work up the courage, you see.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, I think the most hatery.
Yep. It's a good thing that Joe ended it off on a high note there, so I have a good cliff to drive off of.
I like that analogy.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'll let you go, Spout, but right off the bat, I opened my window up, and I'm happy with your objective way more than everyone else's, and your personal is your personal, so I can't fault you for it. So
yeah, I gave it a 74 at a C+. Objectively, it was pretty decent. Lowest score I gave it was a 7 for the lockup and actuation. Like you guys have all touched base on the rattling and the slight shifting and stuff like that.
Right.
Let's just demonstrate.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about. Because we can't do a picture for that, but
yeah. As far as fit and finish goes, the one discrepancy that I was noticing was little discrepancies between the scales. There was one scale in particular that was a little bit proud, and you could catch yourself on it slightly, but it wasn't like it was only one out of the 4 sets or the 4 sides.
Right.
Yes, and you and I talked about that, and I'm not coming off like there isn't the flaws in the marble carbon fiber. I'm not denying that they are. I'm not denying that the one scale, I think it was on the micarta one.
Yeah.
It was like, if you looked at all 4, that micarta one, yes, it was probably like 1 mil higher and not sanded down as much on the, for sure. So nowhere in here am I denying the fact that, yes, they have some flaws. But for me, I think it's a very good price, being Italian made, being M390, being
Dennis,
rounded spine. What's that?
I said, Dennis, you're gushing.
Well, I bought 2 sight unseen, and I took a hell of a gamble on it, so I'm super happy that it paid off, man. Like,
so as you can see by my scores that we're trying to talk about here, I did give it an 8 for the cost versus fit and finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad. Like where it took the dives was in the personal side of things. I gave it a 6 for the aesthetics, because despite that second finger choil not really being that obtrusive, aesthetically, I don't like the looks of it. I find it very awkward. Ergonomic preference, I did give it a 7, because, it didn't feel that bad. It didn't get in the way, but in general, big hands handle was a little short for me, was part of the issue of why I did give it a 7.
Right.
Ergonomic preferences was also one of the lower ones with a 6. Played around with how Dennis carries it, and unless you have it in the right angle, it does like to stick fairly proud out from your hip and would get caught really easily. And I don't really like having the utility clip and being locked into one position. I like being able to shift it around on my belt as need be.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not even touching that one.
Oh, baby.
Talk about those shifting belts, sweetie. No, I
Yeah.
honestly, that's something that once
What
I
you
have
do is
once I
you
have
strap in, you lock it down, you hang on for the ride. That's all I'm saying.
Jesus Christ. No, but when it comes
Sounds
to
like Dennis is into pegging.
a little bit, but when it comes to belt knives,
True story.
I like having the knife in the same position each time I reach for it. So I don't mind having to unclip and readjust. But that being said, the first thing I did as soon as I could was replace the Alti clip off of my Cold Steel Drop Forged boot knife. In practice, I don't like that type of clip, so I totally agree with you. That's it's not a feature I look for in a fixed blade sheath for sure.
And I'm actually thinking that I did mod the sheep's foot one and actually bend it to have like a little more leeway on clipping because I was carrying that one a little more EDC because of the marbled carbon fiber and the classiness of it, right?
Right.
So I think I might even try to stress that a little bit more and see how far I could take it with making it a little easier to clip, unclip, be a little bit looser on the belt. So I'm willing to experiment with that for sure.
Yeah, like when I was playing around with it on my belt, I didn't even clip it down all the way because I didn't want to put a big gouge in my belt because of how tight it was.
I've had a belt for over a decade. I've been proud that this belt has lasted so long, and I found it absolutely like whatever, right? Like it's and this Viper Berus knife is beating the crap out of it. It might actually be the death of this belt if I'm not careful. So
the Alti clip is definitely aggressive. Like it's
Well, to give you an idea, I didn't even clip it to my belt. I just held it up to my belt at the height that it would sit and kind of moved around a little bit and felt where it was poking me.
I even caught myself thinking like, shit, this would actually be kind of a nice knife to just have in your pocket. Like maybe not necessarily clipped to the inside of your pocket, but even deep pocket carry like I do my Ulu. This would be
just
nice,
take off the clip and have it as a slip in.
Yeah, and it's so square at the bottom of or towards the tip of the clip, rather. Like, it's so square. It's not going to roll or shift or do anything strange. Like, honestly, the one reason I don't carry around pocket fixed blades typically is because they have tips like this on the end of the sheath where they just want to...
You've got smart-ass comments there, Paul. I can tell you do.
I sure do.
Bring him in.
I moved it around a little bit and felt where it was poking me.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
It's so square towards the tip.
Oh, baby. How you like it?
Just a very, very quick review from Justin. He thinks it's ugly. The ergos don't agree with him at all. And one gave him a phantom sliver. And I was there to see it happen. And he deserved it for his score, which was a 0 out of 100. Would not buy, even if it's nice.
Well, here's the thing here, Justin. Nice. For $10 a month, I would give a shit about your score. But
and you don't even have to pay the $10 a month for the score sheets.
Is it like a $2? Jesus Christ, yeah, like it's
like a true level one. Like the $10 is to get in for the giveaways.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, join our Patreon.
I'm just saying, man, we put your scores up. We're going to go over Darren's in a minute. And I got some hate on Darren, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the benefit of joining our Patreon is that you get flamed on the internet live. It's fantastic.
Okay. The Phantom Sliver one was actually on the Micarta, wasn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Really?
And because it was raw enough and because I hadn't got my sweaty mitts on it to darken the hell out of it, which I've already done. Like,
keep your bits off it.
Mitts, not kidding? Bits.
I've been mittening the crap out of this thing. Like, it's,
Okay. He said mitts, I heard bits. Yeah. I was like, keep your dick off your knife. That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, advice. I'm not trying to kink shame you, but a little bit.
A little kink shame, yeah.
Justin's asking about a cam girl show. I don't know. How do we unsubscribe Justin?
We banned him.
Ways.
Well, we were blocking some trolls earlier. I don't know.
Well, he was one of them, but he's still here. Rolling away.
Thanks for joining us.
Zinx in chat is saying that he uses the ulti clip as a pocket clip.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of
I
a
bet
cool
that's
idea.
so good.
And now, curiosity, Zinx, is that something that tends to wreck the pocket material? And if so, like what pants have you worn it in? Like jeans or slacks or what?
I'm sure no more than, like, I'm sure it doesn't wreck the fabric any more than a regular knife.
Well, I imagine it might actually be less, because if the clip is
Yeah.
holding hard enough, it's not really rubbing, it's just pinching.
Sliding.
There's no
That,
friction.
man.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that's why I'm curious, because
Yeah.
And then when he said it too, I actually really like the idea of even, and not when you're sitting or riding or whatever, but if you're standing up and doing a lot of things standing up, doing a back pocket carry with a utility clip would actually be kind of cool.
well,
I like that idea. I like front pocket too, don't get me wrong, but I can see that back pocket, like standing around the campfire, doing a lot of things, not sitting down because I'm not bringing out lawn chairs. You don't know where I camp. Like, it's
well, like I've actually back pocket carried this guy without the standoff bit and without the clip. It's pretty comfortable, and in the same size range. I imagine the Berus is probably similar.
That was actually my first thought, was back pocket carry.
Yeah.
for the utility clip. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot.
Hmm.
And I still like the front pocket, like with my marbled carbon fiber and the sheep's foot. For an EDC in the city, throw that thing on and just pop it out like an Azula type of. And I like that idea too, for sure. I might try that out actually.
That's it. Zinx is saying he uses them in his jeans, and it doesn't hurt the pocket at all. I would assume as long as you don't like pull the knife and drag that clip off your pocket constantly, you actually unclip it. It's probably going to be pretty okay. Where like pant material is going to be more forgiving than leather in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Although they did market the boot knife and the the battle ring from Cold Steel, with both of them used Alti clips, and both of them were marketed as like boot knives. So I imagine that it's even with something like leather, it's probably at least acceptable.
You need to get some boots, Dennis. Get some motorcycle boots, and
that's not going to happen anytime soon. I have one thing to go over.
Our chief weapon is surprise.
Berus on each pant or in each boot.
While we're talking about stuff, Nigel, on your personal side of things, before we go to break, it's your personal side of things. So normally I don't question.
Yep.
But I am only going to slightly question your material choice. That's the only one, because you gave it an 8.
Yep.
M390 and a handful of different handle materials, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just knowing what's out there for the handle materials and knowing what else you've scored in the past, M390 with some sort of marbled carbon fiber or some sort of green or black micarta or whatever it is. I'm sure, I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure you've scored higher along the way.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just being a dick about it.
The only thing I will say is that M390 and a pocket knife is a different animal than M390 and a fixed blade.
Yeah.
There might be options as to like, I'd rather with something else than a fixed blade, even though it is a small.
But again, even the sheep's foot, which we all kind of agree is more of a, in the city, just the look and the feel of it type of thing.
If you're going to buy one, that's the one to buy.
Okay, so here's the thing.
2 weapons are fear and surprise.
We were going to talk about it earlier. Yeah, we got time. We got 1 more minute, so we'll finish on this before we go to knife fights again.
Well, we got to talk about Darren's score. We haven't even done that yet.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we got 2
We want to
things.
run this one. All right. What I was going to say is I significantly like the drop point more than I like the sheep's foot.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way, even with the rattle on the sheath, I don't give a shit. Somewhere along the way, if I decided to get a drop point with marbled carbon fiber, so I had that instead, I might just trade you for a marbled carbon fiber sheep's foot instead.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure we could probably.
I'm still too much in the honeymoon phase to actually give you a definite answer. but going right off the bat, yeah.
I'm sure there's at least 2 of us in this chat that you could probably talk to if that was the case.
I'm not sure it'll ever happen.
That's entirely fair.
Yeah.
That's entirely fair.
Yeah.
So Darren's going.
Yeah, let's get on to Darren's.
Yeah, for sure. Good idea.
Who wants to talk Darren's score?
I've got it in front of me.
Darren, chat away.
Yeah, come on, Darren, get in this shit. Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. So it looks like Darren.
Okay, so here's the
up.
thing, though, too. Is Darren hasn't actually handled this knife, I don't believe.
No.
Okay.
So this is a sight unseen. I did send him a couple pictures, and so he knew what he was getting, and he's going off of that. But still, take away.
Some back
I
history.
think he's right on point.
Darren's,
Just saying.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of background here. Darren has played with a ton of knives in his time. He's worked in the same place that we all work. So it's not like he's coming into this completely uneducated as far as, how something will potentially fit and feel in your hand, even though this one might have been a bit of a confusing one at first. His overall score was an 81, giving it a B. I've got this score up on the screen so you guys can peruse to your leisure. It looks like the low points for him were the cost versus fit and finish and the ergonomic execution. Which again, sight unseen, like at the SHOT Show video, that's very justifiable because we all had our reservations about that fucked up second finger choil, right? Even knowing it does feel good. It is still kind of fucked up, isn't it?
I don't care. It looks weird. I like it.
It feels good. It's still good. Eights for everything else in the objective. Personal, he scored very highly. 3 9s for material choice, aesthetics, and ergonomic preference. So for a small fixed blade, it seems like he thinks it's going to be very comfortable.
And that's very interesting that Darren, I'd like to hear his feedback, maybe even in the second part, but the ergonomic execution on the objective side, he gave a 7, but his ergonomic preference, he actually gave a 9. So that's a very interesting spread between him even trying to be fair on, hey, that's weird, but I think I might like it type of idea, right? So
Darren is saying in chat, the 7s were just because he had not handled it, and he went off what he thought, which is fair.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, the 9 on the personal, I'm very curious about that because that is a very different, I think I'll like it, but that's a weird thing, kind of like we all had, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So my justification for buying myself a sheep's foot one at some point is the fact that I'm getting a hidden canyon, so I already have the drop point version.
Yeah.
And if I buy it in a different blade shape, it's a totally different thing. I need that one still.
It's justifiable to buy 2 sight unseen sometimes.
Yeah.
False.
And then his enthusiasm about it is an 8, which is kind of justifiable too. Without sight unseen, he's like, yeah, I'm kind of curious about it, but yeah, I haven't played with it yet, right? So
right.
And it's very kind of funny that it makes me laugh about the 9s for aesthetics. And Nigel has expressed the distaste with that second finger trial and the flow. Yeah. But I mean, knowing the classy, flowy, whatever things in your collection, and then seeing the just obscure, blocky, what the fuck things in my collection, it does kind of make sense sometimes, right? It's
Yep.
Darren is saying the 9 is because the sheath can be used in a lot of different ways. And he really thinks the micarta is a great handle material. And dude, you're not wrong. Micarta is lovely. I have gotten a chance to play with a lot of it recently. And by a lot, I mean this. But I like it. Also, just a quick hello to Ben. What's going on, brother?
Thanks for joining us, Ben.
We're actually going to answer your question from last week, probably when we get back from break.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Ben showed up right when we're about to go to break.
Perfect timing.
Yep.
I wanted to dabble on one more point. Sorry.
3 weapons are fear and surprise and ruthless efficiency.
Guys,
3 points then.
With the full review. We didn't say it in the background, but with this full review on the part 1, black micarta and green micarta, exact same price, but what's even cooler is the normal carbon fiber and the marbled carbon fiber, also the same price.
That is cool.
I think that's noteworthy to be like, hey, we're not charging a premium to go the next step up in the cool carbon fiber. Apparently, because it has voids and there might be some mistakes in it compared to the normal carbon fiber. But still,
okay, we should also say
I don't regret
that,
my decision. Like,
no, we should also say that the voids in the carbon fiber were pretty minuscule. They're not these crazy huge voids that are going to affect ergonomics or that you're really particularly worried about crap getting in. They are noticeable if you're looking for them.
Nigel, tomorrow, if you remind me, maybe we can use your phone because it's so much better, and maybe get a couple pictures to be able to edit into whatever, right? So yeah. Anyway,
yes. Ben saying, darn union workers. Look, we have to take our government mandated break. We will be back.
Indeed. So yeah, with that, go refresh yourselves, grab a new drink, and join us back here in a few minutes because we shall return with our Sunday night fights.
Woot woot.
Refresh yourselves.
the doctor says I need my medicine.
We don't need bigger knives.